Oracle Database 12c SQL. And I'm Fatima, I'm your tutor. So now we're going to see what is SQL. SQL is nothing but it stands for Structured Query Language, and it can also be pronounced as SQL. It's widely adapted by the many database servers such as Oracle, Microsoft SQL, and MySQL. What is the use of SQL? It is used for querying and retrieving the information from the database. So what is database? Database is nothing but it is used to store our data. It acts like a repository to store our data. So how our data are stored? So our data are stored in the form of tables. Tables is nothing but it's consisting of rows and columns. What is column and row is nothing but the vertical way of representing the data is called as a column. For example, here employee ID and employee name, address, salary, all those things are called as a columns. What is rows? Rows is nothing but the horizontal way of representing our information is called as a rows. So in this, for example, if you take this employees table, it have 4 rows and 4 columns. So far we have learned what is SQL and what is database, what is tables, and what is rows and columns. Now we going to see what is schema and what is RDBMS. So schema is nothing but it is a collection of database objects. So each schema have its own user ID and password, and one database may contain more than one schema. For example, here see, this is a database. The big container is a database, and under the database, as I mentioned in the previous slide, I have many schemas. Schema 1, schema 2, schema 3. So like this I can add many schema. Each schema has its own user ID and password. So inside the database we have many schemas. So what I said in the previous slide is schema is nothing but it's a collection of database objects. Am I right? So these are called as database objects. Here I am listed only a few, but many things is there. Table, views, synonyms, indexes, packages, etc. So each schema is nothing but it consists of many database objects and has its own user ID and password. So now you know what is a database and what is schema and what is database objects. Now we're going to see what is RDBMS. RDBMS is the most important feature in Oracle. It stands for a Relational Database Management System. What is RDBMS actually? It is used to relate our tables. So now we have a question. How we can relate the table? So for example, consider these two tables. We have an employees table and department table. And under this employees table, can you tell me how many columns and how many rows is there? Yes, you are right. We have 4 columns: employee ID, employee name, salary, and department ID, and 5 rows. And in a department table, can you able to tell me how many rows and columns is there? Yes, it's right. We have 2 columns and 5 rows. So I'm going to relate these 2 different tables. Now let's see how I am going to relate. So in order to relate a 2 table, we need at least one common column present in between these 2 tables. For example, here I have department ID. the same column is there in my department table also. So by using this common column, I can able to relate these two tables. For example, for each employee name, I have respective department IDs. For example, if you take Alex, Alex is belonging to department ID 10. Now let's go and see what is the department name for Alex. So it's accounting. So we can say Alex is belonging to accounting department. And if you take Samita, Samita is belonging to the department ID 120. And what is the department name for 120 is research. So I can able to say Samita is belonging to the research department. So this is the way of how we can relating the two tables by using RDBMS concept. Okay guys, in the next slide we're going to see about Oracle 12c architecture.